Hey, welcome everybody. I make it 7:30 here in the United Arab Emirates, so let's get going with the webinar. So welcome everyone. My name is Professor Tim Campbell. I'm a visiting Professor of International Management at the University of Northampton, and I look after locally the University of Northampton's Doctorate of Business Administration program. So tonight, just for about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to just give you a short presentation just of some key aspects of the DBA program. And then once that's done, I'll take questions from anybody. So let's begin. Let's begin before I talk about the DBA program itself. Let me just start with Northampton. So Northampton is a town about 100 kilometers north of London, about now by train, an old historic town, and you'll see on my map there's a great big arrow pointing to it. And in the town of Northampton, you will find, of course, the University of Northampton. And if I just go back a couple of slides, there we are. And that's a picture of the university there, or part of the university, one of the entrances. And the university itself used to be just on the outside of the town. But in 2018, in August 2018, they opened and built, a brand new campus that they'd built opened, and it's now right in the middle of Northampton, and is a fantastic campus with all very modern buildings, and really is an incredible addition to the town. And in that campus, you will find this building here, which is the Senate building. And I've just taken a picture of one of the floors there, which is the doctoral students, the research students' space. So there's a space there on campus in the Senate building for any time you go to Northampton, where you can actually sit and do your work and spend some time. So the university campus itself is in the town of Northampton. You will find lots of information about it, and please do have a look at the university's website so you can see lots of you can see all these, and you'll find out all about it. And all I've done here is I've just picked a couple of points about the university itself. Education in Northampton dates back an awfully long time, right back to about the 13th century. But the modern University of Northampton's origins begin about 100 years ago, in about the 1920s, when it was a technical college, and developed further to where it is today, the University of Northampton, with about 14,000 students and 1,500 staff. There's the only ranking, if you like, or that really matters in the UK for UK universities are the official governmental ones, and there's two of them: the Research Excellence Framework, and the Teaching Excellence Framework. And these are governmental audits and rankings of, in the case of the TEF, of the excellence in teaching for universities in the UK. And Northampton has the gold, which is the highest you can obtain. As I say, have a look at that's just a very short snapshot of the university. Have a look at the website and you'll find all the information you need about it, because what we're really here to talk about tonight, of course, is the doctorate program. And I think the best place to start is a question I get all the time, which is not what is a doctorate of business administration, but it's actually what is a doctorate. Now, doctorates have been awarded in universities for hundreds of years, and they've changed over the years. And how we see them today is we basically describe them as terminal degrees, which mean it's the highest degree that you can obtain. Now, there are some small exceptions, such as postdoctoral certificates, etc., but it's generally bachelor's level, master's level, doctorate level. So the highest level that you can gain. And there are two types of doctorates. They're actually very similar, but they have just different audiences. There's professional doctorates and there's research doctorates. And professional doctorates are for those people who are primarily engaged in a profession or an industry. So for example, if you go and see your doctor, you have a cold or something, that person will have a professional doctorate. They'll have a doctorate in medicine. They're not primarily engaged in research, they're primarily engaged in their profession, in the medical profession. In the same way, you might see a pharmacist, and there's a doctorate of pharmacy for a person who's a professional pharmacist, but has studied to doctorate level. And we have those same doctoral degrees in engineering, doctorate of engineering, education, doctorate of education for people who work in education settings, schools, etc. And of course, the professional doctorate for business and management people is the DBA, the Doctorate of Business Administration. So that's geared towards people who are primarily working in the business and management profession and industry. Research doctorates, on the other hand, and the most well-known research doctorate is the PhD, Doctorate of Philosophy. These are for people who are primarily engaged in research in academic settings. So you normally find these people in universities or government research places, things like that, rather than working in an actual profession such as a doctor or a pharmacist or a business person, etc. So they're both academically equivalent. In the UK, we call them at level 8. They're both research-based degrees. On both of these things, you do a big research project. Both of them mean you can use the title doctor, because officially to use the title doctor, you should have a doctorate degree. But you see where the difference is. Professional doctorates are more applied. Your research needs to have a more practical component to it. Whereas people who do PhDs and research doctorates, they don't need to have something that's particularly practical. It could be purely a theoretical contribution to knowledge. So the audiences differ. And just my final, just a last word on that. I quite like this quote here, which is from just allbusinessschools.com, and it makes the distinction quite nicely. So it's quite wordy, but I think it's worth me just reading through it. So what is a Doctorate of Business Administration? So firstly, the PhD. PhD programs in business focus intensively on preparing candidates to conduct highly specialized scholarly research. They focus on the development of new theory in management, economics, and related fields. Most PhD in business administration graduates lead to careers as university researchers and professors, or as senior researchers in business or government. Okay? Whereas the DBA, the Doctorate of Business Administration programs, focus on the application of theory rather than on the development of new theory. The DBA, by virtue of its focus on the application of theory, has more practical applications in managerial settings than a PhD. Okay, so you see how they have two different audiences, but it's not exactly like that. I know plenty of people who work in universities who have DBAs, and I know plenty of people in industries who have PhDs. But that's the main difference between the two. It doesn't mean you can't work in academia if you want to do further down the line, and it doesn't mean if you're in academia that you couldn't work in industry with a PhD. You can in both ways. But generally, these doctorates have different focuses and different audiences. Okay, enough about that. What sorts of things do DBA students study? And this is just a selection of topics from our current students. And our current students come from all sorts of different industries, from the public sector, the private sector, big companies, small companies, entrepreneurs, all manner of different things, and across the board in different functions. And you'll see that from our topics and what people are looking at. So we've got a student looking at performance management systems, critical examination of a performance management system, another looking at leadership styles and employee performance, an assessment of corporate governance in the public sector, assessing the value chain in a manufacturing business, reasons for investing in high-tech startups, resolving project conflicts, agile project management, and one of my students who looked at knowledge transfer and management training. So DBA students do anything business and management. And something I'm seeing a bit more of lately as well are things like sustainability, social responsibility, artificial intelligence, machine learning, risk, things like that as well I'm seeing more and more of as well. So topics could be anything business and management. Let's get on to the program itself. So let me just start at the top of the slide there. We've just started intake 11. In fact, they just started a week ago. And we have 2 intakes a year. So that was intake 11. So we've been running this program, this UAE-based program, for what, 5.5 years now. And the next intake that you guys will be starting will be in November, intake 12. And the first workshop is from the 9th to the 12th of November. Now, we used to run each of these workshops. They used to be face-to-face before COVID. So just bear in mind that now that we run them in exactly the same way. It's the same professors from the University of Northampton who take them, but they use a virtual classroom. Okay, and that will be until further notice. As I'm sure you're all aware, we just don't know when it's going to be possible to go back to face-to-face again. So for the first 2 years, you do 6 modules, and they all have a workshop attached. The first and the last are 4-day workshops, the ones in the middle of 3 days. And that's where you'll meet your professor and your students in the virtual classroom, and you'll be taught from about, sort of 9 to 5 UK time is the usual timings we have these for the 3 or the 4 days. So they're live, they're interactive. It's just like being taught face-to-face, simply it's virtual. So for those first 2 years, you will do these modules. They take about 3 months. So they start with that virtual component. Then you'll be working using the university's virtual learning environment until you complete the module, hand in the assignment, move on to your next module. All research-based modules. Those first 2 years prepare you for everything you need to know for the second 2 years when you actually do a thesis, when you actually do your own research project. So it takes 4 years all in. First 2 years taught, second 2 years you do your thesis with your supervisory team. The assessment, each module has an assessment component, and there's all sorts of different assessments that are done. It depends on the module, and the tutor will tell you exactly what they want. You know, it could be an essay, a seminar presentation, a research report, a reflective report, a research proposal for the last module, practice viva voce. So all sorts of different research methods are used. But when you get to that thesis, it's a 40,000 word document that you need to do. And then that's assessed by a viva voce examination. Viva voce just means oral examination. So you'll be sitting in a room with an internal examiner, someone from the university, and an external examiner, somebody from a different university, from another British university. And they will examine you orally about your thesis. So that's the program. There's lots and lots of support for the module. There's the International DBA program leader, and that person you will meet at the interview stage. When you do, I'll talk about application in a moment, but when you do your application documents, if they're successful, you'll be invited to an interview where you'll meet the International DBA program leader. Every module has its own expert tutor. When you get to the thesis stage, there's a director of study and 2 supervisors. There's administration at the university, and there's also local staff that can help you find the people if you need them or if you're getting lost. The virtual learning environment I talked about, Northampton calls it NILE. It's called the Northampton Integrated Learning Environment. Every module has one of these sites. In one of these sites, you find the virtual classroom. You find a link to the library. You find all the materials that your tutors have used. You'll find videos, anything that your tutor thinks is useful to you. It's where you submit your assignment. It's where you get your grades. Basically, everything is done in this integrated learning environment. Then, of course, there's a very extensive online library with millions of resources for you to use. And just one other thing to mention in terms of support is the graduate school. So you get all of the resources from the doctorate program, the DBA program, but the graduate school is a university-wide framework for training, career preparation, and administration. And the graduate school helps you throughout your postgraduate research degree. And the graduate school looks after all the research students at the university across all the different schools, DBAs, PhDs, etc. And you'll have full access to the graduate school, which has all sorts of fantastic resources, including an extensive program of online training courses that you can attend for free. These are all extra, you don't need to do them. But for example, you might do the quantitative analysis module on your DBA. You might think, I need more about SPSS, which is a tool we use to analyze quantitative data. You'll find extra training in the graduate school. So it has lots and lots of additional training that you can tap into as well. And they also have face-to-face classes as well. So once COVID's done, you'll be able to go to the university and actually attend these courses in person too, if you wanted to. As I say, it's voluntary. They're just extra classes that you can, extra classes and support that are there for you. Let's get on to the entry requirements then. So the standard entry requirement is that you hold a master's degree in a business-related subject, ideally completed within the last 10 years. Although if it's longer than that, as long as you show that you've been keeping up you've been doing training courses at work or something, you've been keeping your knowledge up to date, that should be okay. You need to have a minimum of 5 years work experience, at least some of which should be at a senior level, and you need to be employed in a leadership management role capable of supporting the program learning outcomes. So essentially you need to be working in a suitable role at the moment so you can apply what you're learning to your role in industry. The requirements for application: you need to submit a CV, a personal statement where you're going to write about why you want to do a DBA. Why do you want to do a DBA and not a PhD? How's it going to help you in your career? How's it going to help your future development? These are the sorts of things you put in your personal statement, along with 2 references, your degrees and transcript, and evidence of English language if you're asked for it. But if your master's was in English, generally you won't be asked for it. That all gets submitted. If that all looks good and you're successful, you also submit a research proposal, but I'll mention that on the next slide in a moment. So you submit all of that, your research proposal. If it's successful, you get invited for an interview, which, as I mentioned, will be with the program leader and another person in your subject area. So if your proposal is about strategy, it'll be a strategy person. If it's about accounting, it will be an accountancy person, etc. And then that interview will ask you all about your application documents, but particularly what you're proposing to do in your research. So let me just tell you a bit more about the proposal. It's only short at this stage, only about 1,000 words. And really what they're looking for at this initial proposal is the applicant capable of studying at doctoral level? Is this a decent proposal? Because doctoral level study is a big step up for masters. It's a long journey. They want to make sure that the applicant is capable of succeeding. So they'll be looking just at the general quality of that proposal. They do not expect it to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. This is something you're doing before you even get on the program. Once you get on the program, you're going to be taught exactly how to do a proposal. But at this stage, they just want an idea of your standard, that you're capable of studying at doctoral level. They also want to know, does the proposed research fit with the nature of a DBA? Remember, as DBA must have a practical outcome. And then, does the university have an appropriate supervisor? Now, the university has people that can supervise any major topic. But if you came up with something very specialized, they may not have an appropriate supervisor. So that will be the time where they would be able to find that out. But for most proposals I've seen, that's never really been an issue. It's just if something very specialized came through that could be a problem. And just final things on what the Northampton teams look for in a proposal. Can it make a practical contribution to business and management? Can the applicant reference using the Harvard system? Can they write a brief literature review and cite at least a few authors in the field? Do they have a basic understanding of research methods? And the good news is all business and management master's graduates should already have these skills. Okay, just a final few things from me. The fees, the current fees, please check the Stafford website because they can change between intakes, and I want to make sure you've got the absolute up-to-date fees. But when you see them, you will see they are very reasonable for a DBA program, especially one that's taught. Remember, it's not an online program. You're actually taught by the faculty from the University of Northampton. Few final things from me. Why should you do a DBA with Northampton? Well, it's an investment. It's an investment in your future, both in academic and professional fields. It's the highest qualification in business and management. You will be contributing to business and management practice. It would be expected that your thesis will be published. There's international and local supervision and support, and there's local workshops from leading international faculty. Just a last word from me. Completion of the Northampton DBA will set you apart as an expert, able to lead and manage at the highest levels. You will have made a unique contribution to your field and developed outstanding analytical, critical, creative, and reflective business skills, or skills so needed in today's business world. Essentially, the journey you take on a doctoral level is one very few people do, and it really does set you out as an expert throughout the journey and for the rest of your life, essentially. Okay, I think that's enough from me. Let's get on to these questions then. So the easiest way to ask me a question is to use your question box, and I can see I've got some questions here that I'm going to bring out. Yeah, okie dokie. Okay, the first one's about how long it takes to do the program. So I said the program takes 4 years, and it is designed to be done in 4 years. So please do your best to get it done within that time frame. Don't even try to do it in any less time because it's not worth it. Why save a few months? No, the first 2 years you have set deadlines, so that has to be 2 years. You could do the thesis a bit faster if you were really fast at it. But even then, by the time it takes to arrange the Viva and everything else, it's just not worth trying to rush things. Make sure you get it done in those 4 years. But if you do need extra time, there is a provision for a 5th and a 6th year if needed. So 6 years is the maximum, 4 years is how long it should take. What else have we got here? What is the nature of the assessments? What is the word count per assignment? That, as I mentioned in the presentation, that varies depending on the module. Exactly what that will be in any sort of word count. But your tutor that you have will tell you exactly what to do. Your supervisors you'll meet virtually. So they will come, the question was, will I be able to meet my supervisor here in the United Arab Emirates, taking into account the current restrictions? You'll meet your supervisors virtually. So I have 5 students that I supervise, and it works perfectly well. We meet virtually, we have virtual meetings at least every 6 weeks. We use email so we can exchange documents and comment on them. That's the way it happens, because your supervisory team will be in England, they'll be spread geographically. So not necessarily here in the UAE. I've been advised that the workshops are currently virtual, yes. How important are they to the studies? They're very important, and you must make the workshops. If you did happen to miss a part of a workshop, they are recorded so you can see them later, but you must make them, and those live workshops, as much as you can. They're such an essential part to the program. Next questions. After the taught modules are complete, can I do the rest of the program on campus in the UK? Well, after the taught modules are complete, the other 2 years is pure supervision. So there wouldn't be any modules to attend, either on the campus or anywhere else. But you'd be more than welcome to go to the campus, go to that research area I showed at the start of my presentation, that doctoral area. You can sit down, if as long as you want, you can stay there, do your work, see your supervisors, whatever you want to do. But there wouldn't be any actual modules for you to be attending there. You can also go and, as I say, on campus, the graduate school has various training courses it does at times. You'll be able to go and do those. So if you do want to go, the program's been designed off campus, so you don't have to go to Northampton unless you want to. If you do want to go to the campus, you're always welcome there. I stopped my DBA studies at another university. Can I get exemptions from the modules? Not for this program, because doctorate programs differ quite a lot between different universities. So if you got partway through at another university, on this DBA program, you'd have to start again from the beginning, because each module sort of builds on itself. It's very hard to map what you do somewhere else here. So it would be absolutely fine that perhaps you started a DBA somewhere else, but if you joined this program, you would have to join at the start. What is the nature of the interview? How long does it take? The interview, yes, very important to prepare for the application interview. Bear in mind only about 50% of applicants will be accepted onto the program. So you do need to spend some time preparing, and the interview will ask you about your research proposal, why you want to do a DBA, your work experience, all of those things. So do be prepared, but particularly with your proposal. Know your proposal inside out, why you want to do that research, why you think it's important, those types of things. I'm just going to jump down to this question here from Rumi, saying, do you have any agreement or any type of cooperation with the Ministry of Education in Saudi? No, we don't really have any particular agreements with any ministries in any of the countries that where this is delivered. Because remember, it's delivered, our students come from all over the place. They come from all over the Middle East, they come from Africa. So it would be impossible to try and go to every ministry and try and get some sort of regulation for it. The important thing is that it is, of course, a fully accredited UK governmental approved British university. So it's completely accredited in the UK. Then wherever you're joining from, always make sure that you check with your local ministry or whatever body it is in your own country that deals with these things, that it is accepted and it meets your needs. That's the key thing. As I say, our students come from all over the place, so that's not something we do for you. We can assure you it's accredited fully in the UK. Wherever you come from, just make sure, check with your local ministry or whoever it is. I've got a couple more here. Oh, here's an important one. Will the degree state online distance learning? No, it won't. Remember, it's a taught degree, part-time degree. And here's a good one as well. When will the workshops resume again in the UAE? That is simply impossible to know, the face-to-face workshops. It's just, every time I read the newspapers, something seems to have changed somewhere. So it's simply impossible. So the virtual workshops until further notice. But the virtual workshops are working very well, and the students are getting a lot out of them. I think that's pretty much it, really. Perfect. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Of course, let me just bring up my email address. If there is anything that comes to you, just send me an email after this. Just send me an email or give me a call. Remember, I'm based here in Dubai. I live in Dubai. So that's why I sort of look after the program locally, of course. So feel free to contact me. The next session, as I say, we've got some time. It's not until November, but we need all those applications in at least 6 weeks beforehand. And particularly, you need to be thinking about your research area form, your proposal. And if you have an idea in mind that you want me to have a look at, that's absolutely fine. Just email it to me directly and I can have a look and give you some advice on that if you want. So that could be something you could be working on over the summer, is that research area form of proposal. All right, thanks everyone. I think that's covered the questions. As I say, hope to see you on the program. Bye for now. Have a good night everywhere, everyone, wherever you are.